Happy day, Internet! What's up, guys? Tad with T-Digitech. Today I'm going to be telling you 10 reasons why you need to be picking up this game, Shadow of the Colossus, for the PS4, originally released on the PS2 in 2005, and why you should be adding this to your collection today. Roll the clip! Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start with number 10, which is the quality of the remaster. The cinematography is amazing, and the game just looks incredibly well made. Looking at comparison footage between the PlayStation 2 and the PS4 footage, it's just so undeniable that the team behind this has put so much time into this game. It's well beyond one of the best remasters I've seen in this decade. The cinematography is just so beautiful. Starting with the very second you turn on the game, it just looks incredibly well made. Overall, the entire game just looks amazing, and you would not believe that this was originally a PlayStation 2 game. This game has something that I really like that a lot of games are offering nowadays, and that is a performance mode versus a resolution mode. Such as with the new Monster Hunter, you can pick between the resolution, performance, or frame rate. With this game, I picked performance because it played at a steady frame rate and it still looked gorgeous. Switching to the resolution, it looks even better, but I am personally all about the frame rate. Really, either way you play the game, it's gonna look amazing. Even playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro in resolution mode, I noticed very minimal frame rate issues. In fact, this game is just as playable in resolution mode as it is in performance mode, but it's awesome that the developers gave us that option. That way we can switch between the two, and if you have an eye kind of like I do where I notice these type of things, then you're definitely gonna wanna switch to either one of those. All right, so number 8, and this is a really big one for me because as a filmmaker, I really use the tools of sound and music to employ an emotion within the audience. With this game, it's just incredibly atmospheric. All of the sound design fits perfectly. When you're swinging your sword and when you're drawing your bow, it just sounds incredibly natural. And probably my favorite thing is that when you're calling your horse from afar away, you will whistle and or yell at Argo. And it's just so it's so real. And that's what I love about it. The music is super eerie. It fits the atmosphere incredibly well, especially since you are essentially the villain in this game, and that musical tone really fits with this. In the long term of things, you have to kill all of these giants who have done nothing wrong to you. So you are essentially the bad guy, and the musical tone just fits well with that, especially when you take down a Colossi. Colossi? A Colossus? Colossi? I think I'm gonna go with Colossi. Right? That's the right word? But when you take down one of these Colossi, the music that happens every single time you take down one of these huge bosses. It's just so sad. You actually feel for these Colossi, like they actually had life and you took it away from them. And it makes you feel bad. There's really not a ton of wildlife in this game. So when you're killing these bosses, you're essentially killing the ecosystem there, I guess? I don't know, that's probably a stretch. Anyways, back to the music. The music just sets the tone for the entire game starting when you first start up the game. And it's incredibly powerful and wonderful and almost sad in a way. It's like a sad Zelda. This whole game is like a sad Zelda. Which is probably not a good way to describe this game for you to buy because nobody wants a sad Zelda. It's its own unique type of game, and that's what this is. It's a unique Zelda. So number 7 is one of the things that really hooks me when I'm playing a video game, and that's the gameplay. The controls are responsive, and when you stop using the joystick, your character stops moving. There's some games that I've played where your character will keep moving a couple feet, and he'll move a couple feet back when you're using the joystick. This is completely responsive, your character stops, it feels like you're controlling him, to the point where he's a little too floppy. This game is much more intuitive than you think it is. There are things such as jumping and grabbing onto walls and lifting yourself up, and then when you're on a Colossi and you're grabbing onto his hair, your character Wonder is actually gonna grab onto him and he's gonna fling around when the Colossi is doing that. And when he stops, that's when you can finally start stabbing the Colossi. But until that point, your character's flopping around. The controls are very responsive in the tone that they're actually how this would probably play out if you are on top of a Colossi and you're grabbing onto his hair and he's flinging you around like a maniac and you're clinging on for dear life. That's basically how you control your character. All right, so this is a big one for me and probably for a lot of gamers. The price on this game is actually relatively affordable compared to games that are now out of the market. This is a new game and it's retailing for $40. I paid $13 for this game because I had a $20 reward certificate at Best Buy and then my Gamers Club rewards, so I paid $13 for it, and that's amazing for a game that is of this scope and of size and of quality, they could have easily made this game $60. And really, I'm surprised they didn't, because this game is fun. Probably the only reason that they didn't is because the game is fairly short. And then aside from that, I mean, there's not really a ton to do aside from killing Colossi and collecting the collectibles hidden within the game. But for a $40 game at 6 to 7 hours of quality gameplay and quality story, this is a no-brainer to pick up. I would say pick it up now if you can. Wait like a couple months, it'll probably drop down to 30 bucks, and that is a definite buy. All right, so number 5 is that this is actually a simple game. There's not a ton of BS. This is like Zelda without the BS. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of smack for that, but there's no RPG elements to this game. You have a sword and you have a bow. You don't get any additional weapons throughout the game. Those are the two you're stuck with. And it makes it simple and unique because you have one job and they're killing Colossi. Not going around the town to meet new people, to do side quests, to find ingredients to make something. It's simple, and I like that. And you'll probably like it too, because you get to play an entire game without having to deal with the BS. And if you're a busy guy like I am, you don't have time to play another RPG. It's nice just to sit down and just to have one thing to do, and that's killing Colossi. And I love that element of it, because I finished the game and I can say, oh, this is another game that I finished in my collection that I've 100% completed, and it only took me a couple hours. Now, one thing that I really like is that if you die in the Colossi fight, you don't have to travel all the way back to your home base to go back to fight the Colossi. It just restarts the fight with the Colossi, which is nice because I know games that will restart you all the way back, and it's super frustrating, especially since you will probably die quite a few times in this game. This game is fairly difficult and it has a learning curve. So you're gonna have to figure out how to defeat these bosses, and it might take you a couple times. So that's a really awesome element, and I like it. It's simple. You don't have to deal with all the other stuff. Now, there are definitely some things that I don't like about traveling. This is for a separate video, so you can see that video down below in the comment section below or at the end of the video. Number 4 are the Colossi, or the bosses, whichever you choose, because there's no other enemies in this game. The art style in it is just gorgeous. I've never really played anything quite like this. Bosses aren't too difficult to defeat, and you figure out how to relatively early on how to defeat them. As the game goes on, they do become more difficult, which is kind of something that you expect in a game like this. But still, they're relatively not hard to beat. And when you do defeat a Colossi, you feel a sense of accomplishment. And then the immense guilt sets in because you've just destroyed a family and his little Colossi children. But that's relatively it. I mean, they're amazing bosses. But you've destroyed a family. Number 3, this doesn't feel like a shitty PlayStation 2 game. It has that feel of a PlayStation 2 game, but it doesn't play like one. It doesn't have the graphics. It doesn't have the shitty controls. It's much more responsive, and you get pretty cool little sounds on your controller when you're playing the game. Now, this doesn't feel like a shitty PlayStation 2 game. It doesn't play like it either. It plays like a PlayStation 4 game in the PlayStation 4 standards that we're all accustomed to. Now, that one's a pretty short one, but I think that's pretty important because this is a remaster, and there have been remasters done wrong beforehand. So it's good that we have a really good one on our hands now. All right, so this one is somewhat similar to my number 4 reasoning, and that is that the boss level design is actually really amazing. It plays somewhat as a platformer, and you have to do a lot of critical thinking when you're defeating a boss. You have to think, oh, I have to maybe have him do this, to do this, to do this. It's like a layer of things you have to do to defeat a Colossi. And when you finally get it down after a couple times or figure out what you have to do, then it's just like, wow, I finally defeated him. It took me like half an hour, but it was super worth it. And as you progress throughout the game and you defeat more Colossi, they progressively get harder, and as such, so does the level design. And one thing that I really like is that no Colossi feels the same. You have to defeat them in many different ways. There's only one thing similar that you have to do between each different Colossi, and then that is stabbing them on the blue point on each different boss. But in other words, getting onto that point, you have to figure that out, because not all Colossi look the same and attack you very differently. Now, the game developers put a ton of time developing each different boss's or Colossi's mechanics, and with that, they developed the platform and or the land that you fight the boss in the same aspect, because they correlate with each other. So say you have to do something to something to something, and then defeat the Colossi. I'm not going to give anything away, but it's incredibly important to know, and definitely one of the reasons to pick up this game, because it's not just a simple hack and slash game. There's actually a lot of logical thinking. Now for number 1, and this is probably one of the biggest things for me, because like I said, I'm a busy guy and I don't have time for another JRPG. I have a ton of JRPGs. I haven't even touched Horizon Zero Dawn yet. And I really want to play Horizon Zero Dawn. Monster Hunter's taken everything away from me right now. But this game was still so important for me to play because I had heard great things about the original, and I could not wait to get my hands on this. And my number 1 reasoning is that this is a somewhat short game. You can relatively beat the game between 6 and 7 hours. I beat the game in 5.5 hours. And one big thing is that I got all of my enjoyment out of like a 10 to 20 hour game with this short game, because I feel fulfilled that I defeated all the Colossi. And to me, that's just incredibly cool because I finished a game 100% in like 5.5 hours. And that's something that's really difficult to do with today's games. Finding a game that's that relatively short usually means one or two things. It's not good or it's really good. And this is really good. This is a really good remaster. This is an incredibly powerful and moving story, even as simple and as short as it is. It gets you emotionally invested in the characters, and then when you're done with the game, it just leaves you with this emotional feeling of gratification and that you've just been moved by a simple yet really powerful story. So guys, those are my top 10 reasons why you should be picking up Shadow of the Colossus on the PlayStation 4. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe if you could. You'd really be helping this channel out. And guys, I have another video for you guys. It's my top 10 reasons what I didn't like about the Shadow of Colossus. If you want to see that, click right here, or you can see it in my comments down below. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go play me some more Shadow of Colossus. Peace!